It's 7 o'clock, so can I first of all thank you all for attending the meeting and welcome you to the FAS meeting tonight. I don't think there's any apologies because everyone is here. Yeah. The minutes of the last meeting from July. Is there anyone got any comments on those, or would someone like to move that we accept them as a correct record? Are there any comments on them?
Do we just leave it as it is? Leave it as it is.
Yes. So at full council, obviously, it went to, and they asked me to contact the conservation officer and see what her opinion was. I actually have done, and it'll be coming back to full council, but she is actually happy with the recycled plastic benches. Her recommendation is to use the black ones, not the brown ones in that area. Other than that, she's happy with them. So I've got it down to go to full council.
I come a plastic. Oh, by Sainsbury's, and it's been there a while. And quite honestly, it took me a minute from a distance to realise it. Recycled plastic, but it's not fully recycled. It's on a metal base. So the metal base looks worse than the seating because it's rusty, or going rusty.
Okay, so can we see all those in favour of the minutes there, please? Thank you. Item 4, are there any declarations of interest? No. Item 5, public forum. There is no public forum here, and there's no one online, is there? No. Exclusion of the public just applies to the last two items, which is item 14 and 15 at the end of the agenda. Back onto the public items, financial update. Item 7. The financial budget summary. Has anyone any comments on that?
Be pleased to hear, Mr. Chairman. None at all. I'm perfectly happy with A, B, and C.
Has anyone any comments at all on either A, B, or C? In that case, then do you require we vote on them separately? I think no. So can we take them all three together? Would someone like to move them? Seconded. Those in favour? Thank you. Item 8, C, Town Council Equality Policy. Has anyone any comments on this, or do you want to say anything on it, Naomi?
It's just one of those, we've always said that we're working through a rather large list of policies. This is one that we are required to have, so this is our first draft of it. If you're happy with it, it will go forward to full council for adoption. If not, what for miss?
I've got just a couple of suggestions, nothing fundamental. Top of page 4, the third bullet down, it's a slightly laboured sentence, that one. Ensuring, so you might want to remove 2 words, which is what and are. So ensuring that all employees understand their roles and responsibilities in relation to equality and service provision. That just makes it simpler and easier to read. Bottom of page 6, in number 9, 9.1 and 9.2 are strangely smaller in their font size. I thought they were footers for one, but I don't know, they're not, no. And final one is 10.2, the word website. Because later on in that sentence we call it websites, all one word, and then on the line below, 10.3, website is one word as well. So it's a one word. But other than that, it's fairly boilerplate, and yeah, fine.
On the first, it's page 3. I'm not sure that we shouldn't have in 1.3 a catch-all that list is not exhaustive. Just yeah. Yes. Yeah. And in 3.2, the bullet point 2, I think different is superfluous in there. It can be read that the people are different rather than different people.
Sorry, could I say, would it work as understanding the diverse needs of differing people? Of people.
It's just that I spent 20 years working with disabled people. I won't get into them, we should call them differently able.
So would somebody like to move and second that with those changes to it, and then it can go to full council in 2 weeks? All those in favour? Thank you. Item 9, policy review. A disciplinary procedure. Any comments on this?
I'm afraid I've got a bone to pick with you on this one. On all of them. In May 2020, you sent me the Word document versions, and I did track changes across them all, and you haven't reflected any of my changes. If I went through them now, we'd be here all night. So I think what the best thing I can do is, why don't I just give them to you? And because I've gone through again and written on them in red, as you can see, like a school teacher, but I'm not. The only other thing you might want to consider as well is, you always have a different front page appearance on all of them. You know, sometimes we have capital letters, sometimes we don't, sometimes we're all over the page, etc. I thought if we're creating a uniform bunch of policies, we should just have exactly the same, standards. So people won't ever tell that we've copied them from different sources. So,
Yeah, that's not, if you can, that would be wonderful. I thought we had, I must have found an old copy, or Gina did, I do apologise. In regards to front covers and stuff, I'm working through removing it being solid capitals, because actually that's not classed as disability friendly. So I will be, if council has no objections, doing that, because block capitals are not the easiest to read.
best one, by the way. I just thought I'd enjoy this one with you. Where is this? I don't know where it is now. That one. There was one. Sorry. Oh, yes, there it is. Employee terms and conditions. Para 10.2. The third line, the fact that if we don't handle data and disclose and transfer such data to third parties is reasonably necessary for the effective ruining of the council. Not the business, because obviously we're not a corporate. Yes, the wonderful word ruining. I wouldn't want that one.
Naomi, could I suggest that if we had a template for the front page of all the policies, and we had it set up properly, it would make them all look similar on the front page, even to the fact of whether they were capitals or whether they were bold or what font or whatever. So if we made a template, it'd just be a case of filling boxes in, and then it might make it simple. It might even make it easier. Yeah.
Not a problem. We are working through various templates, so I will put a note to set up one for that as well.
Can I see all in favour of that? Who's moved in it secondary, first of all? Okay. Yeah. Those in favour then? Thank you. B is the grievance procedure.
Yeah, but we're doing
Well, we can do if you want. I don't know if you want to do.
Yeah.
Well, has anyone any comments on either the employee terms and conditions or the managing absence or out of hours policy or recruiting the selection policy? No? Would someone like to move them all in block then? Yes? Right, move them. Seconded. Those in favour? Thank you.
On the recruitment and selection policy, when you go to page 5, we talked about rehabilitation of offenders, etc. I remember when this came up last time, we talked about what was and wasn't possible, etc. But I now understand a bit more about the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act through the Code Youth Action Group. But I think I suggested last time about, are all council staff DBS cleared? Right. So perhaps I've suggested a sentence in here to say that it's important to note as part of the recruitment policy and selection policy that we tell people who we're required to that. So if someone's got something fundamental in their background that we should know about, then they should really disclose it at that stage if possible.
It's on all the application forms as well. So we do. On the staffing policies, I think they've also been through our HR company. So the legal side of it is checked as well.
Okay. Can we move on then? Item 10, update on emergency works at the town hall.
So we have had the plumber out, we had the electrician out on Monday. They're coming back a week on Wednesday, a week tomorrow. So that the plumber's been out and removed the radiators today, and the roofing guys are coming on Friday, so it's underway. It isn't going to be the quickest process because we've got to get the plaster off the wall, and then they're estimating a 3-week drying period with equipment in. And with us using the lime plaster, which is required for the building, that can be 8 to 12 weeks for drying. But they are getting encouraged as much as they can, because I'd really like the building as watertight as it can be before winter.
We got an idea of the overall cost.
Yeah, the cost submitted to full council that was ratified is about 16 grand for the lot. That also includes removal of the lowered ceiling and restoring what's above. So we are, again, restoring the heritage, because I know it's something that's important to the council.
Are there any more comments on that update? No? So can we note that update then? Item 11, items for a future month's agenda. Does anyone anything?
I've got one for you, and I've mentioned this one before, but transfer of assets and services. From a Pendle perspective, they want to start to investigate, obviously, savings. I think I mentioned those before. And one of the things they want to do is to have another rollout of discussions with towns and parish councils all about the remaining assets and services that they could potentially outsource, get rid of, transfer, etc., etc. So from a Cone perspective, obviously a few years ago we got the town hall, we got various parks, playgrounds, etc. I think when Sarah was the chairman then, it was basically a case of, well, if you don't take the town hall, we'll sell it. If you don't take the playgrounds, we'll just let them rot and grow over, and that'll be it. I think the finances of Pendle dictate that it could be that serious again, so therefore things like, obviously the Mooney, the Market Hall, the Leisure Centre, car parks, cemeteries, that sort of thing is relevant for us. What they want to do is to have another presentation to Cone Town Council, be it members of the full council or members of this committee. They want to try and do that towards the end of August, start of September. So I think it's more just a presentation and say, start thinking about this. Basically echo what I've just said, really. But there'll be a bit more scene setting, and maybe they'll start to talk about timescales, ultimatums, or that sort of thing. So just to forewarn, you might want to think about, as I say, nominating 1 or 2 people to come along to that presentation.
It was requested at full council, and it's actually down on the next full council agenda to ask the councillors what they would be interested in, because Pendle haven't suggested anything to us again yet. So it was what particularly would the council like us to focus on, because it will be looking at the costs and everything behind it. And it's a very big project if you want us to do every single thing. So it's which were the priorities. So it's down for a full council discussion 2 weeks today.
One of the things we've got now that Dean Langton's obviously left, there's no finance person. We've got a temporary finance person at the moment, and what they want us to do is to start to think of the ideas that could start to draw out the costs of some of these things. So as you say, when you say, well, what does it cost to run the Mooney, or what does it cost to run a cemetery, then we can start to try and dig down and get that information as well. So that'll help Cone Town Council and the other councils start to make some decisions with background information. And to be fair, I don't think they're looking for things to be done instantly. I'm sure they'd love it if we took the whole lot instantly. We took it and preserved it as Cone, therefore we could keep it in safety and security forevermore, or whether they're looking for some sort of time frame over the next couple of years or so. So I just want to bear in mind it's on the full council agenda, that's fine.
I think we have to be careful that we don't get given a pig in a poke, because however much we may like to save, the market, the Muni, car parks I don't mind because that's easy, it doesn't cost a lot. Last figures I saw, the cemetery makes a profit, so I doubt they'll want to get rid of that. I won't do the joke about it being a dead end job. Oh, sorry, I did. But running the leisure centre would also, I would hazard a guess that all three of those run at a loss. And I don't know what Pendle Leisure Trust get from Pendle now and their own resources. So there may be that there is a way that all the town and parish councils can provide some money towards the leisure trust. You know, I think there is more than, use the phrase, more than one way to skin a cat without killing it. And I think we've got to be careful that we don't rush into these things. I know from talking to friends who are connected with Burnley Council, they're having exactly the same difficulties with leisure services in its widest because they haven't the same number of town councils as we've got. So things like Townley Park and other things aren't going to stick with them, whereas most of Pendle's parks have been devolved, I suppose. But I just think we've got to, the old phrase, slowly catch your monkey. And until we know it's so much and so much and so much, which means, I mean, whatever the cost, it will mean our costs go up. There is no way we could take any of those on with the current staff. There's just not the number of people needed to run the Muni. This Holt House, I've forgotten about Holt House. We've just got to be careful that we don't get lumbered with something that we would later regret. And not wishing to bring a political point into it, but I'm afraid it is, that this is all arisen because of the government's cutting money back to local authorities. And the last thing that I read, any plans for a Greater Lancashire and so on at the moment have been sort of kicked into the long grass. I've witnessed the fact that they didn't do anything with Morecambe and bits of Grange and that in an authority together. So we're probably stuck with the current, it's more than a two-tier system, but with district and county council for a while yet. So I think we have time to look at these things with a good grounding in knowing exactly what it's going to cost. I'm sure if we'd have known all the costs involved in this building, we might have come to a better deal and asked them to spend quite a bit of money up front before we took it, but we are where we are, as they say. So, but just a word of caution.
I think you're right, Aaron. There are different ways to do it. You could say, like the town hall here, the asset was transferred and the responsibility for maintaining it is transferred as well. There's also ways to say, well, you could make a contribution towards running it and maintaining it. So effectively it's not ours, but we're contributing to it. So that's another way to do it. So there are different ways to do it. And as you say, there are different ways we could make it so that we were fully aware of things, we limited things, we understood the costs, and therefore we understood what the cost of it going forward would be. But yeah, there's many different ways to do it, that's for sure.
There is one thing that I think Pendle need to get their act together with, because as David said, we were in a position where with certain things such as some of the parks and play areas, etc., it was a case of if we didn't take it over, it could be lost and it could be closed down and no money to run it, and it would disappear. And that was the situation. But a lot of town councils have taken over various things, such as play areas, bush shelters, roadside seats, and all sorts of things. And some town and parish councils haven't taken the things over, and they are still being maintained by Pendle Council. And that is not fair on the ones that have taken it over, because where a town and parish council has taken something over, they're footing the whole bill. But in some parts of the borough, it's still being paid for centrally, coming out of a different budget, and that is not fair, because you could say that some places like Barnoldswick and Cole, and Earby for that matter, are paying twice for some things because the town council's paying for it, but Pendle's paying for it in other areas, and they're going to have to get their act together and treat everybody equally. I mean, now's not a discussion for that, but it certainly wants bringing up when we have the meeting with Pendle Council.
As you say, there was a very variable appetite for taking on the assets and services in the past. A lot of the smaller parish councils have taken on all the things they can, because there's not a great deal there, bus shelters and benches and the odd park or two here and there. But yeah, I think that Nelson Town deal that's got 20+ million or so, that's got to take on some of the assets that they should have taken on the first time round. Because otherwise, as you say, the people like Karen Barnold and Newby that have that appetite, because they have that pride in the town and want to try to keep those assets going for the people. I think that needs to be a borough-wide initiative, for sure.
Anyone else? So can we move on then on that? Alan?
We were discussing before we started the meeting about perhaps investigating a longer term solution to the top of this building. Maybe maybe not the next meeting, but I think it's something, I don't know, maybe a standing item that there won't be anything to discuss on some occasions, but I think unless we start thinking about it now and realise that I'm trying not to set a hair running, but I think the town clerk knows exactly what I mean. Yes.
So, in regards to this building, we are looking at a new conditional survey and conservation plan. Sorry, try that again. We are looking at getting a new conditional survey and conservation plan for it. However, one of the things we are noticing a lot of is last week the roof sprung another leak. So I am investigating, and it's very early stages, of what a re-roof would cost, because it's going to get to the point where we're patch repairing, and it'll end up costing more. So in the background I am doing a bit of investigating on that, because I think it's one of those that you're going to end up spending millions when actually it might be that you look at doing another public work loan for it and invest it in that. It's an old building. They could reuse the slate, a good chunk of it, but it's something we are going to look at. But I am investigating companies to do a new conditional survey, and alongside that there will be a conservation plan.
Is there still heritage money floating about, or is that?
They've changed the guidelines for it. It's not that we couldn't apply for it, it's that you will now be competing against things like York Minster, or every single church, town hall, anything like that. It's all coming from the same area now. We are investigating what other funds we may be able to apply for. It's quite a big project, which is why we've started kind of doing it in the background, because we are aware like you say, the different assets, there's always something. And if there was another listed building that the council wanted to consider, it would be very useful for us to know on that one what needs doing as well. So if we add it as a standing item, kind of town hall maintenance to the agenda, just if there's something like this going on, then I can keep you updated. Is that okay?
If there isn't, you know, maybe you can write on the agenda, there's no report this month, so rather, yeah.
Yeah, I just have a feeling with the roof that looking into the future, if you look at how much we've spent on it in the last 2 or 3 years, and you look how much the insurance company has spent on it for work they've paid for doing, it comes to a fair chunk. And if we carry on getting leaks and doing some more patchwork, my worry is that we spend 10 years keep patching it and spend a fortune on patching it, and then we bite the bullet and get the whole lot done. Is it going to be cheaper to bite the bullet and get it done sooner? So that's why Naomi was really suggesting getting some prices, and then we can have a proper look at it.
One quick question: is it more on one side than another, or more east facing, west facing, north, or whatever?
No, it varies. We do as a standard thing check up when we've had, like last week where we've had torrential rain. We do a walk round of all the rooms just to check, because it doesn't seem to be, since we had the lead work done on that side of the building, that's reduced it, but I'm now 2 meters along. So it's one of those, the hope is with the drain pipes done and the work we have had done, it has reduced it. We're not actually getting it running through 3 floors now, but you just start noticing the odd new damp patch. And I can also assure you that it's not from the gutters being blocked, because we check them fortnightly, and if we find a new damp patch, they're checked again.
Yeah, then. Moving on to the date and time of the next regular meeting is on Tuesday the 7th of September. Item 13 is to exclude the public. There are none, but we do need to wait